Hey, all you Clear Lake peeps. Ross England here, Clear Lake Guide Service. Just wrapping up a pretty fun morning of fishing. So we're going to fire off our weekly report for you. Start off with our conditions. Water temperature is hanging in there around, we'll call it mid 47 range. I've seen it as low as 47.2 and seen it as high as 48.1, but it's pretty much hanging out in the mid 47 range. Water clarity, it got a little bit of a stained tint to it, and I think that the visibility has gone down. I've been in the Rattlesnake Arm and the Redbud Arm over the last 2 days, concentrating in these areas. And the best I've seen is a visibility that was about 3.5 feet, and I've seen it as low as about 2 feet. I'd still call it clearish, but it's definitely not what it was. I have not seen anything that's, any more than about 4 feet. And of course, if the sun was shining, like it just happened to pop out now, that might make a little difference, but in the overcast conditions, it was foggy this morning. The lake was pretty much socked in for probably hour and a half, 2 hours, and it's slowly started to break off, and now it's looking lovely. So lake levels not really changed dramatically. The creeks are running, but they're definitely not running strongly. We just haven't had a whole lot of rain, so I'm not exactly sure what the actual lake level is. The last time I'd looked, it had only come up like 1/3 of a foot. So if we don't start getting some rain here pretty quick, which nobody's going to hit the panic button at this point, we typically get a lot of rain the last part of March or February and into March. So probably going to be the same kind of thing. Activity, there is a ABA tournament this weekend. We've talked about it for a couple of weeks. It's finally here. It'll be here this weekend, and I'm not aware of anything else. So the amount of boat traffic out here depends on the day. Like today, I've dealt with Crawdad Dan, one boatload of crappie fishermen, and the guy in a kayak. So that's what I've seen today. So I would call that fishing pressure pretty light. Now granted, there's a bunch of people up at Shasta and other tournaments going on around, so that's, I'm sure, got a little bit to do with it. So I'm going to get into the fishing report. And the fishing report, I've been really trying to think of how to word this. I've had a lot of fun the last 2 days. I personally would rate the fishing pretty good, but at the same time, I've run into people who have busted their heads out here and haven't gotten a bite. So I'm going to rate that, if you really know what you're doing up here, you're probably going to do okay. The average fish is running a good solid 3 to 3.25 pounds. They look bigger than that because a lot of the fish that we've been catching are coming up from 25 plus feet. And, it just looks like they're super fat and full of shad, and they are, but they've also got an air bladder that's blown up. So, you get them back in the water real quick, they're able to get back down. Don't make the mistake of putting them in the live well unless you've got a fizzing device and know what you're doing, because they're probably, after you've had them in the live well for, a couple hours, they're going to be in serious trouble. So I'm gonna say that the fishing report, we're going to call it good with an asterisk. People who know what they're doing are catching fish. It's not an easy lake to fish, and it's not fishing real easy. Today was a really good example where places that we caught fish, I never saw fish on the graph. We just fished, and today and yesterday I've been looking to add, hopefully 2 or 3 new spots a day in my pre-fishing out here to figure out additional spots to where I'm up to about nine or 10 spots that come on, Gracie, come on. I'm up to about 9 or 10 spots now that I feel like I can pull up and catch fish on, multiple fish. When I'm at it pre-fishing like this, I catch 2 fish, sometimes 3, and I'm gone because I just can't sit there and wail away on them and whack on them. So my numbers are always a little bit skewed unless I specifically tell you I'm out here fun fishing, which these last 2 days I have not been. But having said that, I fished by myself yesterday, caught 11 fish, and today Jim and I fished, and honestly he wasn't a whole lot of help today because I had 20 and he had 2, so we had 22 fish today. But it's just, he was trying some different stuff, and obviously, as you could tell, it didn't work. So we probably yesterday 19.5 pounds today, thanks to one that was a little over 5, probably 5.5. They were probably sitting around 21 pounds. So limits of fish that I'm really happy with anytime. I don't have to worry about fishing tournaments. So if I can catch, a limit of 4-pound average fish, those are good fish. Told you that we caught them deeper. Actually not deeper than we've been fishing, because we've been fishing in 20 to 30 feet of water. Guys this week that I have either seen or talked to, their A-rigs are flying all over this lake. We've caught our fish. We threw an A-rig a little bit, did not get a bite on it because we just wouldn't stick with it. Caught fish on Kitex. Jim caught a couple of ripbait fish, and that was about it for us. I don't know if you can catch a good fish on a jig right now. Unfortunately, I'm just not fishing them. But it's funny because when we first started seeing the A-rig up here, it was at a time of year when normally you had to fish super slow to be able to get a bite. And these fish right now are doing the same thing that they did back then. Even the ripbait fish, the fish that Jim caught, he caught them when he was starting to reel the bait back in to make another cast. So it seems like, speed is an issue, and if you've got the speed, they'll bite it and they'll chase it around. We're seeing birds all over the place. I'm sitting here, as you might recognize, right off of Buckingham Point, and out behind me out here, it's just loaded with grebes. But I have not really seen any concentration of bait fish anywhere. Maybe out there somewhere, maybe down there somewhere, but I've been in a lot of places and I just haven't seen it. So it's either dead on the bottom or it's moved up on top. And with the amount of birds here, it's got to be within reach of them. I know they can swim down to about 15, 18 feet because unfortunately we've caught grebes at 18 feet on spoons. So I know they can go down that deep. But so there's the bass fishing report. I'm probably going to fish again tomorrow, and probably going to spend my first day back up above the Narrows. I've seen some crappie being caught, but it's not widespread. Honestly, folks, there are just not enough people here fishing to really have a really good overview fishing report. All I can really share with you is my stuff. So that's that. I had watched a couple of kids yesterday catch a couple of hitch while they were fishing for crappie, so obviously there's still some hitch around. Looks like we got another week of rain ahead of us. Doesn't really look like it's affected the fishing in any way, shape, or form. I'll tell you what, it's not easy fishing up here right now. I've heard some clubs come out and they've had 3 or 4 teams blank, and then they have somebody win with 28 pounds because they get an 8 or 9 pounder. That's the position that we're in. We're catching those kind of limits, and we just haven't got that one big fish to push it up over 25 pounds. But it's a lot of fun. The only thing that I'm a little bit concerned about is you know, when you're fishing this deep on this lake, 25 feet plus, again, be careful with your fish. What happens is you start fighting them, you know, especially the ones that you're catching out around 30 feet, 25 to 30. They put up a really good fight for about the first half of the fight, and then as they start getting up, that air bladder starts to expand, and all of a sudden they don't fight so well. They come up and they look locked up, like they're not even fighting. So please, this time of year, you know, with this water temperature down where it is, get those fish back in the water as fast as you can. Try to avoid putting them in the live well. We'll all be better off for it down the road. So that's my report for this week. Haven't seen anybody out here, so didn't have anybody to say hi to. Regarding the bookings with Clear Lake Guide Service, April's just about full. March has got a lot of room left in it, and there's about half of May that's available. So I think we're going to have a lot of really good fishing if the weather holds up. Look for February to be pretty darn good the way January has been. Just depends on the weather. So if you want to get out with me, check out ClearLakeGuideService.com or Clear Lake Guide Service on Facebook, and you'll keep seeing my fishing reports here on YouTube. Thanks, y'all. Have a good weekend.